Welcome to my top 10 grapplers in the Kengan verse video. First, let's go over what's considered a grappler and what I'm accepting in today's video. Grappling consists of gripping or seizing the opponent, involving things like takedowns and ground control, with grapplers in Kengan using throws, holds and locks, so the rankings will involve a combination of those three skills. A quick Google search of grappling martial arts shows things like jiu-jitsu, judo, Mongolian wrestling and even aikido, among many other styles. However, in today's video, I'm not counting Kengan Aikido masters based on this panel in Ashura of Mutaba thinking about the top class grappling specialist, not showing Hatsumi with his Aikido magic. And if I'm being honest, I just don't want to include Aikido. It's also possible that Faye or Lolong could make this list in the future, as I haven't seen them fight in Omega at today's recording. And I'm not including Lu Tien, even though he had some grappling based exchanges with Kano in their fight. It's mainly his perfect formless adaptability carrying him rather than his grappling skill, in my opinion. You can happily disagree. It's also possible that Oma's master, Nico, could be on this list, as his water kata is most likely better than Oma's, and of course the water kata is a grappling based kata, but I won't be including him in today's top 10. Yes, some placements will be interchangeable, but I think my reasoning for some is very valid, so make sure to listen, as the rankings may not go how you think. Starting with Group 1 or rank 10, 9 and 8, I have Meguro, Jaime and Naden. So Naden, the Mongolian wrestling absolute beast, has these clingy muscles that are pretty much built for grappling according to Gaolang. He does kind of get carried by his very impressive raw strength rather than his overall grappling skill, but as a whole was able to, you know, one tap high ranking worm members with single throws, which is of course very impressive. Then we have Meguro and Jaime. As we know, Jaime is the clone of Meguro. I consider him better than the original, so does the older Jaime who actually cloned him, while Jaime himself doesn't, but based on his fight with Drota, it's very clear that the current Jaime is stronger or overall more skilled than Meguro in my opinion. So Jaime by default I'm going to place over Meguro, but many feats from Meguro can be transferred over to Jaime, such as being able to kill top class grapplers with single throws and, you know, take Mutaba to the ground quite easily in Kengan Ashura. So how will I rank these three? I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm considering everything from throws, holds and locks. We haven't really seen Naden do any like locks or any ground based grappling. Most of his stuff was based around throwing his opponent to the ground, and that's kind of what Mongolian wrestling is all about. While for the likes of Jaime, we've seen him do throws and also seen him be praised by Drota in the ground grappling aspect. So by default I'm going to put Jaime at rank 8, Naden at rank 9 and Meguro at rank 10 for today's video, but these three could be very interchangeable. Now on to the second group, which includes rank 7, 6 and 5, with the fighters being Oma, Cosmo and Okubo. Let's talk about the Cosmo vs Oma fight for a bit. Many will try and say Oma is a better grappler because he won by choking out the King of Stranglers, but let's look at the fight as a whole. Most cases during the fight was Cosmo actually taking Oma to the ground, with him controlling Oma for the large majority, while countering various Nico style striking attacks, even mounting him at various points. Oma got the advantage with water kata abilities, which allowed him to have more stamina and holds Cosmo couldn't see coming. But while saying that, there is an argument that Cosmo was focusing solely on foresight to counter Oma during that fight, and it wasn't his grappling skill that was doing it. Regardless, the first major hold Oma got on Cosmo was escaped, and the second one that finished Cosmo mainly became successful based on fighting IQ and circumstances, as Oma waited for Cosmo to use his foresight X zone combo to counter with the water kata ultimate technique water mirror. I agree there's arguments for both being better than the other, but I don't think there is a definitive answer for these two. You could also bring up the Mutaba statement again, as Mutaba vs Waka was indeed after Cosmo vs Oma, and say Cosmo is above Oma based on that. You could maybe also say Oma failing to get Kuroki into holds was mainly due to his inexperience in grappling, but either way I think these two are very interchangeable interchangeable and will make up rank 6 or 7. I'm just going to put Oma rank 7 and Cosmo at rank 6. And if I was including Oma's Master Nico, he would most likely go in this spot above those two, but as I mentioned, not including him. So that means at rank 5, I have the one and only Okubo. You may be thinking why, let me explain. As we know, prior to the Cosmo vs Oma fight, Cosmo actually had a mini match with Okubo, which was a grappling based match where of course Cosmo was the winner, but the circumstances of why he won is very important. He pretty much destroyed him with his foresight, but we need to consider grappling skill alone, and we did indeed get this panel I'm showing on screen now, saying the following. Objectively speaking, I've got a bigger frame, more experience, and better all-around technique, with a graph on the side to represent their skill. So we see that Okubo is better at throws and locks, while Cosmo of course is better at holds. If you take this how it is, it's very clear based on the criteria I mentioned at the start of the video, Okubo is indeed a better all-around grappler than what Cosmo would be, and by default I would say Oma as well. So Okubo is going above Oma. Now on to the next group, which includes rank 4 and 3. I have Kano Gito and Nitoku. So why is Kano Gito above Okubo? We get this panel in the Kano vs Okubo fight Ashura, showing that Kano actually has better skill in pretty much every stat, whether it be blows, throws, and locks. It doesn't mention holds, so you could maybe say Okubo is better at holds, but we do see a graph to the side there showing that Kano should be better at every element, which by default does make Kano Gito a better grappler as a whole. So yeah, that's why Kano is above them. Now let's talk about the likes of Nitoku. He's a Sambo master, with Cosmo mentioning when he had the fight against Ghost Dude that he's never seen anyone match Nitoku in hard submissions in either public or underground fights, making him one of the submission experts in the series. And we saw in his Dongchen fight that he is pretty decent, or not decent, he's good at throws as well, making his throwing ability a lot better than the likes of Cosmo, who is mainly focused on, you know, his holds. So having top tier submissions and very high level throws does put him above many of the other grapplers. But is he better than the likes of Okubo or Kano? We haven't seen the full fight, but from panels we've seen, it does seem like the fight was striking based rather than grappling based. But based on the statement that Nitoku pushed Kano to the brink, I'm going to make the assumption that he did better against Kano than what Okubo did against Kano in the Annihilation tournament. But who is the better grappler between Kano and Nitoku? I think it's clear that Nitoku is better at submissions and maybe throws, but we have seen Kano do some pretty decent throws throughout the series, for example against Lutien in their fight. But Kano is somewhat similar to Okubo, where he's an all-around good grappler rather than focusing on specific things like Nitoku more so is. So I'm not really sure which one to put better as the better grappler, but considering Kano won their fight, I'm just going to put Kano at rank 3 and Nitoku at rank 4, but again, very interchangeable. Now on to the top 2, which include Koishi, Cosmo's Master, and Drota. So as we know, Drota is pretty much the pinnacle of judo in the series, with his throws being leagues above everyone else, and also having some, you know, ground grappling skill, being able to contest Jaime on the ground and actually counter him at various points. So his ground skill is also pretty high level. Then we have Koishi, who of course is Cosmo's Master and still Cosmo's Master in Kengan Mega, which makes you think by default he should be better than Cosmo at overall grappling still. And unlike Cosmo, where he's a master of chokeholds, Koishi is skilled at joint lock, so he's a joint lock specialist, but probably better at every other element of grappling than what the likes of Cosmo is as well. So he could very well be the best grappler in the verse. We don't really know for him. I'm making a big assumption with him. Well, not really a big assumption. I think many people agree that he is most likely one of the best grapplers, if not the best. But between these two, I'm not too sure. I will put Drota at rank 1 because we've seen more of what he's able to do, having, you know, the by far best judo skills and also being very skilled on the ground. So Drota rank 1, Koishi rank 2. And that is my top 10 grapplers in the Kenganverse. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know your top 10 down in the comments. Do you agree with me, disagree with me? As always, shout out to the people who support the channel via the Patreon. Absolute mad lads. But yep, that's it guys. Peace.